Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today's guest is Ksenia Turkova. She is joining us from Rockville, Maryland. She's a single mom past single mom of one 12-year-old boy. She's a journalist, a TV host. She worked in Russia, Ukraine, and US. She's also a linguist. She has a PhD in philology and a teacher. She teaches Russian language and literature at one of the Russian weekend schools in DC area. Welcome, Ksenia. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, and I know we met with you about 2.5 years ago when this podcast was starting, so it is a pleasure to have you. So please share your story with us. How did you become a single mom?
Now I'm not a single mom anymore. Disclaimer right away, because I got married a year ago, but I was a single parent for 9 years, and I was a single parent in different countries because I moved to 2 different countries, and I probably will talk about it more. So I became a single parent in 2012 when I got divorced with my first husband, and I had a very good marriage. Actually, my first marriage was very good. I can't say anything bad about it. I didn't have any like bad experience, but sometimes things happen, and it happened that my husband fell in love with someone else, and he left us. It was very difficult for me emotionally that period of time, because it was unexpected, and again, as I said, our relationship was good, but that happened very like abrupt, I would say. That's why it was difficult for me to go through that. And one more thing that is very important to talk about: our son is adopted because as a couple we had certain medical problems, and we decided to adopt a kid. So we adopted a son in Russia. He was only 4 months. When we met him first, he was only 2.5 months, and he was adopted when he was 4 months. So for me, it was I would say like double tragedy, because I was thinking about my son who was left by his family first time, and then the second time, maybe left, it's not a correct word, because we are in a good relationship now with my ex-husband. We are friends, and he was always supporting me and my son, and we kept good relationship. But however, for our son, it was difficult. He was very small. He was like 2.5 when the divorce happened. Although he felt everything, he is very, very sensitive. I think because of his biography, because of his personal story of adoption. And kids like that, they're like sensors. They feel it. And when father is very involved into family life, and he spends a lot of time with you, and then the next time he is not at home, the kid is wondering what happened. And we got to the point that he actually got seriously sick, because he was worried, overwhelmed by what was going on. And of course he felt my emotional state at that time. So that's how I became a single parent, and I never planned to become a single parent. I always thought I was a very, very family-oriented person. But when I got divorced, my first thought was, I don't know why and where did I get that thought. But I do remember that moment when we were sitting on the couch in our living room with my son, and I said, I want to go to another country. And I don't know why I had it in my head, because I was not planning it before, but I said it out loud, and in several months I got a job offer from Ukraine. It was in 2013. almost 10 years ago already. So I immediately agreed to that, and I moved to Ukraine only for 1 year at that time to start a new radio. I was invited as a radio host and as a media trainer. And I agreed. We moved to Kyiv. But then the revolution happened, and all the events, Crimea and war in Donbass. And I decided to stay in Ukraine. I loved my job, and I fell in love with that country. And so I just decided to stay. And we stayed for 4 years. And for 4 years, I was a single parent in Ukraine. And I was a witness of all those events. And we lived in the center of the city where all that happened. So it was difficult for me emotionally because I just got divorced. And at the same time, it was difficult for me as a journalist, as a mother of a little boy who was also witnessing all this. So it was an interesting experience, maybe not very ordinary.
Right. But I think, I call it, you wanted to start a new life. That's why, like, I want to leave because I don't want to be here anymore. I want to, the walls have memories and all the furniture, and I want to start my life anew. And I guess that's why you chose to.
Probably, although I liked my job in Russia at that time. At that time, I liked it. I worked for one private radio station. And I was content. I was happy with my job. I had a lot of friends. But for some reason, yes, I had that thought. And it's interesting that I didn't have my first thought was not, I will find someone else. No, my first thought was, I want to live in another country or live for some period of time. That's interesting, and how I said it out loud, and it happened to me. First, I moved to Ukraine, and then I moved to United States, also because of the job offer. I got a job offer from United States, and I moved to work for Voice of America. And it also was a difficult decision for me because of my son. And I was thinking it might be very difficult for him to move to one country, then to another country, so far away, different language. And it was also a difficult decision, but I made it, and I don't regret.
That's amazing. And I think children are very resilient, and as long as he's with you, he has a kind of a stable component. I understand that it's difficult sometimes to adapt, but I think when kids are younger, it is easier for them to be resilient and embrace the change. And kudos to you for following, on your dreams and answering that question and moving to another country.
Yes, that's true. And when we lived in Ukraine, I even didn't date. I was not in a relationship. I was not dating. I don't like dating apps, so I'm very conservative in that. I'm progressive in general, but I'm conservative in that area. I don't like dating apps. So I always wanted to meet someone just like on the street, an old-fashioned way. Right. And it actually happened to me. I met my future husband at my friend's house.
Awesome. And what were some of the things, Heiko, you were dealing with? You mentioned that it was difficult. What are some, was it emotional, financial issues that you were dealing with when you became
when I lived in Ukraine? First of all, it was emotional aspect, because life in Ukraine is not that expensive than life in the US. And I will talk about it more. So now in US, my probably most important issues was from the beginning when I just moved, was the financial aspect, and in Ukraine it was emotional, just adapting to the events, tragic, dramatical events that were happening, and I was very emotionally involved in those events because I'm from Russia. I lived in Ukraine. I supported Ukraine, and it was emotionally tough. And at the same time, my son was very small, so we lived there when he was 3 until when he was 7. so till his first grade. And he's not a very easy child. He has ADHD, and pretty severe, and we always had some problems with discipline in the daycare, kindergarten, and it was also a source of stress for me as a single parent. I was trying to keep him busy because it's very important for kids like that. But I would say it was one of the most difficult aspects at that age. That age was difficult. And also what I did, maybe it would be a life hack for someone, I don't know, but I think it worked for me well. So I tried to surround him with some male figures. So I found a swimming instructor who was a young guy, and he was so nice, and he loved kids very much. So they had a great connection. And what was very important, he was never irritated by my son, by Kirill, although he can be very, very annoying with his ADHD, because it's difficult for him to listen, to follow the instructions. And that instructor was just perfect. I also found an older man who was an art teacher, and he was more as a grandpa figure for him. And we also had a lot of male friends. So I tried to surround him, because he doesn't have, so his dad lives in Moscow, and he doesn't have granddads, because my dad passed away very early in his life. He was only 51. And my first husband's dad also he passed away when my son was 2. So he doesn't have grandpas. His dad is in other country, uncles in different country, and so I decided to surround him with male figures. I thought that it would be important for him. So maybe that would be a good advice for someone, if it works for someone.
I love that advice. I think that's amazing, because especially when we don't have male figures, grandpas or fathers.
Yeah, grandpas, to have grandpa is very important, I think. I also almost didn't have grandpas, because they passed away early when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I remember something, but very vague, and I would love to have a grandpa, and so I think it's important for the boy.
Yes, yeah. What kind of advice would you give to your younger self when you just became a single parent, knowing that what you know now?
I think I worried maybe too much. So I stressed myself out because of things that are not that important.
Like what?
Like the behavior of my son.
Mm.
I was, I think, too much involved into trying to solve that, to correct him somehow. Although I think I should have done maybe I should have more accepted him as he is. It's probably because I didn't know much at that time about ADHD. I did know that he had it, but I didn't know much about ADHD in general. And only when I think only when I moved to the US, where it's a very common thing, I started to realize that probably my approach should have been a little different. I was just stressing myself out because of that. So maybe I would give that advice, like to read more about that, and to take care of your emotional state more. Although I did take care, I was in therapy when I lived in Kiev, and it supported me a lot. I think it's important. That's one more advice I think I could give, that in my opinion, again, maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but for some people, maybe it will work. I think it's very important to have a hobby for a single parent. Before I became a single parent, I had some hobbies, but they were not very, I don't know how to say, like articulated. For example, I play classical guitar, but I finished a musical school in Russia when I was like 15, 16, and I'm a good player, but I didn't, I was not into that hobby. So I could probably like play here and there a little bit. I don't sing, but I play. But I didn't put any effort into maintaining this. I didn't make it my hobby when I was married, I mean. The same thing with like other things I liked, but when I became a single parent, I think I realized, maybe subconsciously, that it's very important. And when I lived in Ukraine, I started a very important hobby in my life. I started dancing, and it helped me a lot, and that, I would say, changed my life. I don't know how I would have survived without dancing. And I will explain why, because I started dancing boogie woogie. It's like rock and roll in Ukraine. Boogie woogie is a swing dance. It's a dance from a swing family of dancers. So the swing dancing community in different countries, in Europe, in the US, in Russia, in Ukraine, is a very strong community. They always help each other. It's a very, very unique community. So when you are in this family, you will never be abandoned. You will never feel lonely in any country. You can travel wherever, and you will always find friends or place to stay at, and people will always help you. That's how swing dancing community works. And so I got into this dance, and I love jazz. I love this time from 20s to 50s, music and dances, and Charleston, Lindy Hop, and boogie woogie. And I was so happy. I had classes twice a week, and I was waiting for them. I took part in a competition to challenge myself. And I actually, we won first place. We took a first place among the beginners with my partner. We were beginners at that time. And when I moved to US, the first thing I did before even finding the apartment to live, I found a church, and I found the swing dancing community. So I do remember when I just moved, maybe the next day, I Googled, I found Gotta Swing. It's the biggest swing dancing community here. And I just wrote an email to them saying, "Hi, I'm Ksenia. I just moved from Ukraine, and I'm looking for the dance events and for friends." And they say, "Ksenia, we have an event this Saturday. Please come and join us." And so that's how I got into this swing dancing family. And they also helped me a lot. I found a lot of friends, and I got my car, my first car in the US here, because my swing dancing friend was selling that car. And I got my dog, also my first dog, because one of my swing dancing friends, she works for Lucky Dog organization. And so we adopted a dog through Lucky Dog organization from the shelter. And a lot of little things like that. I do remember I had a year when I felt lonely, and it was Thanksgiving, and they invited me to join the dinner with some members of our dance community, and I felt like in a family. So it's a hobby that gave me a lot. And also I started playing guitar. Here I found a group of people during pandemic. That was because of pandemic. We joined and united, and we decided to play guitar together, the girls group.
I love it, and I think it is important. And I think we disregard as adults, oh, hobbies are for kids, but in hobbies is where we find ourselves. Just like you, I had my own hobbies that I started. I started doing Argentine tango. My spouse didn't like it, so during our marriage, I stopped. After it was over, I went back, and just like you have a great swing community, I had great tango community and people connecting. And I think it also allows you first to find yourself, and you will never feel lonely because you have people with similar interests, and you create circle of friends who share in that. I started singing. I was able to find people in that regard as well, and painting. And I don't know, I think they have paint and sip events I used to do, and find people.
Sure. And also with dancing, I think what is very important that dancing give you this so it can compensate the lack of hugs and touches, because when you are not in a relationship, but you still want that some kind of physical connection, like to hold someone's hand or to hug a person, and dancing gives you that. And I didn't realize that before, because I remember when I first joined the Boogie Woogie group. Boogie Woogie is a very energetic dance. It's a good cardio. If you want to lose weight, you should join Boogie Woogie or rock and roll group. And people are sweating. And when I first came to this group, I was a little bit concerned, like, how can I touch all those different people? But then some acceptance came to me. I realized that I accept different people with different bodies. I don't care that they are sweating, and it gives me a lot. It gives me a lot of energy. Those touches and hugs and music.
Yes, I think you bring an important point, that it's you can find this that you don't feel lonely, and you have that physical connection with different people. What kind of advice would you give to your younger self?
I think we talked about that already. Yes, I would probably say that don't stress too much. Stay calm, read more about the problem you don't know enough about, maybe, and just don't stress too much. Take care of yourself and chill and chill out.
All right.
Because I was too stressed and too tense, I think.
Are you relaxed now?
Much more relaxed. That I still have this issue because I'm that kind of person, I think. Okay. But I'm working on it, and I'm much more chill than I was before.
All right. What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
The most important trait to instill in a child, so like kindness or confidence or believe in yourself, or I don't know, what do you think?
Believe in yourself is very important. I think the ability to be happy. I want my child to be happy most of all. I don't want to push him to some achievements, like I want only good grades, and I want him to go to certain college, and maybe he won't go to college at all because he is now thinking about it, and he is interested in starting like having a job right after school. Maybe he will change his opinion because he's only 12, and they change their opinions in that age. But I'm ready to support him in whatever he decides. Of course, I try to like to direct him in a soft way, to describe different options he will have in life. To show him the advantages and disadvantages of those options. But at the same time, most of all, I want him to be content with himself, to understand that he is unique, he is a person that should be respected, and I want him to be happy most of all.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. What is your personal superpower?
I think I'm very optimistic, and I would say maybe 3 superpowers. Being optimistic.
Okay.
I'm very good at networking, and it helps me, and it helped me a lot as a single parent. And that probably would be a good advice for someone. Maybe it's not a very good advice for very shy people, but if you are not very shy, do networking. It will help you, and try to make friends and acquaintances. And the third one, time management. I think I'm very good at time management. My husband now says that I've never seen a person who can like profit even on even if they have 5 minutes of free time.
I think
So,
this is a true superpower you have on your hands.
so I think those 3 things help me a lot. But maybe most of all, being optimistic and believing that everything will be fine.
That's a very important belief. In the world we live in, if we just watch the news.
Sometimes it's very hard to believe in that, yes.
What is the smallest thing you've done that had the biggest impact in your life so far?
The smallest thing, it's difficult to say. That maybe I don't see those things as smallest things. The first thing that comes into my mind is dancing, but it's not a small thing. Because I was looking for some new hobby. I was going through some period of time when I was very stressed because of being busy and because of the events in Ukraine at that time. And I was super busy and I was tired, and I was looking for something that can distract me from that. And just my friend took me to a boogie woogie class, and maybe it was because at that time it was small. I just went with my friends somewhere, but it was a big change.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be huge. It's actually those micro things that happen in a life that then become bigger things. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
I would say again that I advise everybody who is a single parent spend a lot of time with themselves. Try to spend time with yourself. Go, I don't know, shopping, find a hobby, read a book, watch a TV show. Just I do believe that you shouldn't dedicate all your life and all your time to your child. You need some time to get your resource, and when you are charged, for example, I went to a dance class, I'm charged like a smartphone, and I can give this energy to my child. So don't forget to charge yourself.
Yes, I totally can relate to that. We gotta charge our batteries. We're not Energizer bunnies. We need to invest and charge ourselves up. What is your favorite energizing practice other than dancing?
Dancing, playing guitar, and I love different languages. I think if I had time, I would have learned a lot of languages. I just don't have time for all of them. And I like the process. It's not that I have some goal. Of course, when I moved to Ukraine, I wanted to learn Ukrainian. Oh, I'm sorry, that was some interruption.
We are back on.
I just like learning languages. I'm learning Spanish now. And when I was at the university, I learned Finnish for 2 years. I don't remember much though, but it's an interesting language. I started learning Italian and different languages. So that, and it also gives me energy because I think it's like a brain workout.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. I love languages as well. I was doing English and Russian back then, and when I came to US, I was very fascinated by Spanish, so I taught myself Spanish. And then when I went to college, I did Spanish and French, and now I'm doing French on Duolingo. Every day, 15 minutes a day. It gives you a great workout, keeps your mind sharp, and makes life more interesting when we have invested in different hobbies to develop all parts of ourselves, because we are not just this one cell individual. We have all so many interests and talents, and I think it's so important to invest in yourself and do those things, fill your battery, do the things that bring you joy, because we cannot give from an empty cup.
Yes, that's true.
If people would like to connect with you, learn more about you, where would they go?
They can go on my Facebook page, Ksenia Turkova. They can easily find me there. And also I have a English YouTube channel for English speaking audience, also Ksenia Turkova, and you will find me. But it's a channel not about being a parent, not about family or kids. It's more professional channel. And as a linguist, I'm analyzing the texts of media and political speeches, and now I'm analyzing everything that is happening in Russia and in Ukraine from the linguistic point of view.
Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story with us, and I appreciate your wisdom, and I love the advice that you shared.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bring the child, surround them with male figures. If you don't have the dad in life, bring extra granddad and all the other important people, so they don't feel alienated, they feel that connection. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Irina.